The movie begins with a gray-haired old man standing in front of the window, gazing casually downward. Meanwhile, a gang of hooligans is wreaking havoc on the cars. The car owner comes to find out what's going on, but he gets beaten mercilessly. Eventually, the owner collapses in blood and stops breathing. The hooligans also block the pedestrian crossing for quite some time. This is where stuff dealings take place, trafficking, murders, and robberies. Residents of the area simply go about their business and do not complain. When he witnesses these terrible incidents, the elderly man has no choice but to stand by and watch. It's all because he promised to his wife years ago, as soon as he took off his military uniform, he would stay out of harm's way and spend the rest of his life in peace. Harry Brown was a senior officer in the Royal Marine. With a meager pension, he retired from the army and lives in seclusion in an apartment building near the slums. Every day, he walks to the hospital to see his sick wife. Although his wife is semi-vegetative, Harry continues to visit her every day. Later, he goes to a nearby tavern to drink, talk, and play chess with Leonard, a longtime friend. That evening, Harry receives a phone call from the hospital. He is told that his wife is in critical condition. In the pouring rain, Harry gets up and heads for the hospital. He has to cross the pedestrian path, but he is afraid of running into one of those hooligans. Consequently, he chooses to take another path. Upon arriving at the hospital, he fails to see his wife for the last time and sobs in repentance. The next day, he cries when he buries his wife. Now he can only hang out with his friend Leonard. The two men still play chess at the pub daily.
You've never really talked about
Stuff had to be locked away.
it. Sorry, I shouldn't have said anything.
It's all right.
Leonard advises him to avoid Sid, the bar owner, because he deals stuffed firearms and women. However, the two don't know whether this is true or not. After that, they go to the toilet together. Leonard expresses his fear because the hooligans shoved garbage into his mailbag and slapped him. He has had enough, and he takes out a cutlass from his coat pocket. Harry notices this and tries to stop his friend, and says that he would accompany him to the police station. However, Leonard states that he has contacted the police already, and they act only if someone gets killed. He turns and walks out of the pub. Late at night, someone sets fire to a pile of plastic waste in front of Leonard's home. He is awakened by smoke quickly filling the room. He struggles to his feet and extinguishes the flames. He hurries to the door, breathing heavily.
You fucking bastard! Bastard!
The next day, Detective Inspector Alice Frampton and her partner arrive at Harry's house and tell him the bad news. Leonard died on the sidewalk last night, but the identity of the attacker is unknown, and the police are investigating. In pain, Harry could no longer control himself and lost his voice. He is distraught that he had not been able to save his friend. Detective Frampton, however, lead the police to the 4 suspects in Leonard's murder. Noel, one of them, arranges for his uncle to hire a lawyer. So when the police question them, they all say the same thing. They not only insult the 2 policemen, but also warn them to be careful when walking. Because of the lack of evidence, the hooligans are released.
No comment.
No comment.
Meanwhile, Harry gets lonelier than ever. He no longer has anyone to drink with or talk with. Disheartened, he has a few more drinks at the bar. He pulls out his wallet and pays for his drink. A junkie is looking at him, unbeknownst to him. He walks back home along the river. When he suddenly reaches under the bridge, a man emerges from the shadows, brandishing a knife and demanding that he hand over his money.
Give me your fucking money back!
Shocked, Harry grabs the robber's other hand and points the knife backward at his chest. The robber collapses quickly and dies. Harry makes sure that no one saw him and walks away. The next morning, Frampton visits him again and gives him an update on Leonard's case, recognizing Harry's military status after seeing his photo and decorations from his service in the Marine Corps. She informs him that at the crime scene, investigators discovered an antique army knife. Fingerprints and fibers from Leonard's clothes were all over it. He states that he knows about the knife and affirms that Leonard used it to protect himself because the police couldn't do so.
These kids on the estate, they were harassing him. That man, he was frightened to the police. And what did you lot do? Nothing.
However, she states that the defense lawyer would argue that Leonard's killer acted in self-defense. This means that the killer would be charged with manslaughter, not murder. She advised him to prepare for the outcome of the trial. Harry gets enraged and kicks her out of the house. After that, he pulls out his treasure and takes a trinket and a military knife given to him by his wife. He begins to devise his plan of revenge and follows a drug addict to their house late at night. He says he is thinking of buying a gun to shoot the pigeons that have been squawking on his roof. They take him into the courtyard. The yard is overgrown with weed. It looks like a modest, self-sufficient plantation. Harry enters the dirty and dark interior. On the couch sits a woman who had been injected with something. Also, he spots a video of her assault on the television. In a fit of rage, he grabs his gun, gently loads it, and attacks them with a knife and the gun while they are not looking. After that, he carries the woman to a parked jeep. He finds a barrel of gasoline and sets fire to the entire building. Harry drives the woman to the hospital in the jeep and puts a wad of money into the woman's clothes. He honks loudly and disappears into the night. Later, the woman gets treatment and the paramedics discover a lot of money in her clothes. Frampton and her coworker come to the hospital. The woman suspects that something is wrong because normal criminals wouldn't shoot a woman and then drive her to the hospital. Harry heads toward the church and empties the contents of the bag into the donation box. Then he goes to the cemetery to bid farewell to his family. Now he is about to begin his plan of revenge. Late at night, he looks out the window, watching the thugs downstairs. Finally, an opportunity presents itself to him to assassinate a dealer. After the killing, he drives one of the thugs upstairs to interrogate him. Harry grabs a leather pipe and yells at him. Eventually, the thug describes what had happened.
Fuck off, boy! Fucking shit!
He claims that Leonard attacked them that night with a cutlass, but he got beaten by them. A guy named Noel murdered Leonard with his own army knife. After that, the thug hands over the video he had recorded. They stabbed Leonard with a knife and pissed on him. Harry is furious at the way Leonard died. He chains the thug and takes him to the sidewalk like a dog. Elsewhere, Noel and another thug get involved in a horrible situation. During a shootout, the chained thug gets killed by his two terrified friends. Shortly after, Harry murders another thug. On the other hand, Noel manages to run away. Harry struggles to keep up with him and eventually runs out of energy. He suffers from emphysema and slumps to the ground. He is later discovered and transported to the hospital. Frampton presents herself at the hospital to visit him. The doctor states that he is having difficulty breathing and is unable to answer police questions. However, Frampton detects the smell of gunpowder on his jacket. She presumes both murdered boys to be connected to Leonard's murder and begins to suspect Harry. She returns to the police station and informs the chief of her views and suspicions. She asks that Harry's clothes be tested for gunpowder. But the chief doesn't think that this old man could have killed several people in a row. Considering the many riots in the city lately, the chief has no time for her suggestions. He even tells her to drop the Leonard case. The police forces struggle with the rebellions in the city. It quickly turns into a riot, crowds pelting the policemen with stones and gasoline bombs. They also vandalize and set fire to cars. On the other hand, the policemen respond passively by forming a line with shields. Meanwhile, Harry wakes up gently in the hospital room. He stands up and takes off the tubes. Despite the doctor's instructions, he leaves the hospital quickly because Leonard's revenge has not yet been accomplished. Frampton, on the other hand, discovers that Harry had left the hospital without permission. She is certain that he would go after Noel, so she and her partner, Highcock, rush to the riot area. The riots escalate, and Frampton and her partner are attacked as they enter the neighborhood. Then there is a serious vehicle collision. Highcock gets hit in the head and sustains serious injuries. Both detectives are trapped inside the vehicle. Fortunately, Harry arrives just in time. He helps the detectives and then heads to Sid's bar. When Sid sees them, he says he will call the ambulance and walks away. Inside the bar, Frampton notices the gun on Harry's belt, and her suspicions are confirmed. At this point, Harry realizes she knows the truth and states that these bastards have turned killing people into a sport, so he must teach them a lesson. However, she tells him that if he is going to kill Noel, Sid will kill him because Sid is Noel's uncle. Harry is taken by surprise. It seems that Leonard was right when he said that Sid had done nothing but harm in his life. Later, Harry goes to see Sid with a gun, and he is taken aback when he finds Noel hiding there. Sid knows what happened to Leonard and tells Harry that Noel didn't kill him. However, Harry gives the phone with the video to him and claims the hooligans killed Leonard and filmed the whole event on Noel's phone.
Put that down. Fuck that. My defense don't want to shoot him out. But I can't let you.
He starts feeling dizzy, and Sid approaches and seems to worry about him. Cautiously, he takes Harry's gun, but after that, he immediately changes his attitude and strikes Harry in the stomach. When Frampton hears the ruckus outside the bar, she immediately calls for backup. Noel approaches and attacks her surprisingly. Sid takes Harry into the outer room and beats him as well. After that, Sid scolds Noel for filming the killing of someone and intends to throw the detectives and Harry into the street to make it look like they died in the riot.
Dump them on the street.
First, they need to kill them, so Sid puts his hand on Highcock's nose and lips until his breathing stops. Then Noel tries to do the same with Frampton. Fortunately, Harry wakes up and takes out the gun from his sock and shoots Noel, who collapses and dies. When Sid notices this, he shoots Harry in the shoulder and approaches and raises his gun to shoot Harry in the head. Harry fearlessly tells him to take the shot. At that moment, Sid notices 2 red dots on his chest and immediately gets killed by the snipers. We discover that the police completely annihilated the drug cartel and evil forces in the city. During the press conference, a reporter states that it has been reported that the former naval commander is responsible for many murders in the volatile area as a vigilante. However, the police chief denies the rumor and announces that Frampton and Highcock are to be awarded medals. Harry strolls on a beautiful lawn. The walkway, previously covered with graffiti, is repainted. Harry regards it and quietly proceeds to the sidewalk and underpass, which is now finally quiet and safe.